Hi, I wanted to go ahead and give some instructions here for the speculative evolution assignment that's posted here in Classroom. The learning intention on this one, we're learning about analyzing evidence for evolution so we can show why that theory is important for understanding how animals live in their environment. We're going to be looking at basically how an animal functions in its own environment and then what would potentially change about them if they were to be moved to a completely different environment. Success criteria: I'll be successful when I can research a specific animal's adaptations to help it survive in the wild. I can hypothesize what adaptations would change to help an animal survive in an environment it is not normally native to. And I can create a visual representation of the changes in adaptations based on my hypothesis, or again, like an informed guess. So, the concept of evolution explains that organisms survive in an environment by having adaptations that help them deal with environmental pressures in that environment. When we say adaptation, again, we mean either a behavior or a physical characteristic that helps an organism survive out in the wild. So, you will be predicting the evolution of a species of your choice. There is a video link here included for some inspiration of how species could change millions of years from now. It's from a series called The Future is Wild. Basically, it was about speculative evolution, just talking about like how animals could change many millions of years from now. So for this activity, it helps if you pick a non-human animal that is not domesticated, lives in the wild, and not with humans. Again, the humans and domesticated animals that live with humans don't really have to deal with environmental pressures because they just live with people. So again, we want to think about something that lives in the wild. So with number one, you go ahead and pick the species. Then we want you to fill out the following chart to help compare the environment your animal lives in now and the new environment you are moving it to. It helps if the new environment is very different from the environment the animal normally lives in. So, for example, you can change it from a desert to a rainforest or from the ocean to a grassland. Again, think about what would be a pretty dynamic change in environment. The more drastic the change, the easier it is to think about what could change about the animal. So again, it's divided into two columns here, one about where the animal lives now and one about its new environment. So tell me the name of the environment. If your animal that you pick lives in multiple environments, just list as many of them as you can here. And then think about the new environment. You just want one new environment that it could be moving to. What affects the survival of your species in that environment? So, again, this is about environmental pressures, things that could cause that species to go extinct. So, think about things like temperature, rainfall, getting food and water, avoiding predators. Think about the things that affect their survival, again, in the environment they normally live in, and what would be a factor in the totally new environment you're moving them into. So, for example, if you're moving them from a rainforest to a desert, in the original environment, they have to deal with lots of rainfall, maybe flooding and things like that. In the new environment, if they're being moved to a desert, they have to deal with a lack of water. They'll have a harder time getting the water they need. And then, what are three adaptations, again, physical features or behaviors that help your species survive in this environment? So, again, we want to think about three different things that the animal already has that can help it survive in its current environment. And then we want to think about three totally new things, things that would change about the animal to help it survive in the new environment. So, again, I want to emphasize here, make sure the three adaptations are ones the species did not have before. You want totally new stuff in this box. This question here asks, would you describe the level of change in your chosen animal as microevolution or macroevolution? Explain your answer. So again, microevolution is very small changes over a short period of time. It's a change that you're likely to see in your lifetime. So again, things like, um, you know, little variations in size on different parts of the body or differences in like hair color, eye color, um, little tiny changes like that would be microevolution. Macroevolution would be an example of really big changes that take place over a long period of time. So, again, if we think about, for example, organisms that used to live in the water and use gills, moving on to land and using lungs, that's an example of a really massive change, a really big change. So, again, think about the changes that you made as far as the adaptations. Would you describe them as little or big? Make sure to explain your answer. Finally, for the last part, you're going to create an original image of your new animal. either in the space below on a separate piece of paper or using a digital editing program, again, whatever you prefer. You can draw the image, just drawing it freehand, or you can create it with a combination of pictures and or drawings. So again, you can use editing software to combine pictures together, or you can take a picture of the original animal that you started with and then add on stuff to it to show how it's changed. Make sure to include all three of the new adaptations in your image. So, again, everything from this box should be represented in your new image. If an adaptation is difficult to represent visually, you can make a written note about it instead. So, again, think about when we talked about moving between the water and the land. If a species suddenly gained lungs, those are an internal organ. So, you probably aren't going to show what they look like, if you're just drawing the outside of the body. So you could just write a note off to the side saying, okay, it has lungs now instead of gills. Or if it's something maybe related to its behavior that's hard to draw out, maybe what time of day it's active, something like that. You could write that off as a note on the side. So that's it as far as this assignment. Again, just make sure that you're focusing on the first column is all about what the animal originally has. The second column is about what would change about it. And make sure all of your changes are represented in your original image that you create at the bottom. You can always contact me if you have any questions. But otherwise, I hope you have fun with this project. It's kind of a nice little creative thing to do. So I hope you enjoy it.